You're not going to believe this, but New York City, the world's most famous destination, is suddenly losing something it thought would never run out. And the cracks in the economy are already starting to show. We're talking about international tourists, the visitors who fill Broadway theaters, shop Fifth Avenue, and pack Times Square. This time, it's not just a slowdown, it's a quiet retreat. Bookings are down, tour groups are shrinking, and for the first time in years, even New York's most loyal visitors are saying, "We're done." You might think this is just about prices, but what if it runs deeper? Into something more personal: fear at the border, politics that feel hostile, or simply feeling unwelcome. For many, this isn't just a financial choice, it's a statement, and the consequences are already piling up. New York is bracing for 2 million fewer international visitors in 2025. And while they make up only 1 in 5 tourists, they spend nearly half the money. That money? It's staying in Canada, Europe, and Asia, anywhere but here. If this is what 2025 looks like, 2026 could be worse, because the quiet boycott is real, and it's spreading. If stories like this matter to you, hit like and subscribe. It helps us reach more people who need to hear it. Let's get started. Here's where the damage becomes undeniable: the money. New York's tourism industry was supposed to hit pre-pandemic highs in 2025. Instead, forecasts now warn the city could lose over $4 billion in direct international spending this year. And once you factor in wages, suppliers, and tax revenue, the real cost is far higher. What makes this sting is how central international visitors are to New York's economy. They stay longer, spend more, and support jobs in every corner of the city. When they pull back, the ripple spreads far beyond airports and hotels, into restaurants, taxis, neighborhood shops, and even tour operators. Those operators are already sounding the alarm. Matt Levy, who runs custom tours across the city, says his bookings have fallen sharply, with school groups and international families simply not coming. Veteran guide Renee Rewisky has seen the same thing on the streets of Lower Manhattan. Last year we had 20 people on the tour. Today, just 5. For small businesses and workers, that kind of drop isn't just inconvenient. It's survival on the line. And if the downturn continues, 2026 could be even worse. Because what New York is facing now isn't just fewer tourists. It's a financial crisis rolling through the city. And the first sign of just how deep this runs? New York's closest neighbor, Canada. For decades, Canadians were one of New York's most dependable visitors. They came for shopping trips, school tours, and holiday getaways. But that loyalty is breaking, and the numbers are staggering. For 6 straight months in 2025, Canadian crossings into the U.S. have plunged by more than 30%, both by car and by air. Border points in New York State that once bustled with Canadian traffic are now reporting some of their quietest summers in years. This matters because New York is one of the top U.S. destinations for Canadians. And when millions cut back, the impact is immediate. Emptier hotels, canceled student trips, fewer shoppers on Fifth Avenue, and quieter Broadway seats. What's driving the pullback isn't just the dollar exchange rate, it's politics. President Trump's tariffs, his insults toward Canadian leaders, and even threats about making Canada the 51st state have left many feeling disrespected and unwelcome. Add fears about border hassles or being detained, and the mood has shifted from eager to avoidant. A national Angus Reid survey confirms the change. 1 in 4 Canadians canceled or changed U.S. trips this year. Most simply spent their money elsewhere, at home, across provinces, or in Europe and Mexico. For New York, losing Canadians isn't just about fewer tourists. It's losing a loyal base, and they may not return. And Canada isn't alone. Across the Atlantic, Europe is pulling back too. And that loss hits New York's prestige. Picture a family from Paris, saving for years to make their dream trip to New York. For generations, that was almost a rite of passage. And they weren't alone. Millions of travelers from France, Germany, Spain, and the UK once saw New York as the trip of a lifetime. But in 2025, many never even book the flight. The numbers prove it. Major European operators are reporting steep declines. French hotel giant Accor says summer bookings from Europe to the US are down 25%, while Voyageurs du Monde has seen a 20% drop since President Trump's return to power. Across Germany and Spain, agencies are reporting a similar trend. Their clients are choosing Canada, Egypt, or Latin America over the United States. And it's not just about exchange rates or airfare. Many European governments have updated their travel advisories, warning citizens about being detained, harassed, or caught in America's volatile political climate. Surveys also show U.S. favorability in Europe has plunged to historic lows. For many, the decision is personal. Following new tariffs, insults toward European leaders, and a growing sense that Washington no longer values its allies, Europeans are quietly shifting their spending elsewhere. For New York, the message couldn't be clearer. Losing Europe doesn't just mean fewer tourists. It means losing prestige with travelers who once considered the city the crown jewel of world tourism. And the first places to feel that loss of prestige? The very industries New York is most famous for. Few parts of New York depend on international visitors more than Broadway and the city's hotels. And in 2025, both are showing the strain. Broadway has always relied on group bookings, from Canadian schools, European tours, and long-haul travelers who built entire trips around a night at the theater. But those blocks of seats are disappearing. Industry insiders warn that without international sales, some productions may not last through their scheduled runs. For a business where every seat counts, fewer groups can mean the difference between a show thriving or closing early. Hotels are under pressure too. On the surface, occupancy rates look steady, but insiders admit much of that demand is being propped up by domestic travelers and even contracts to house migrants. That keeps rooms filled, but it doesn't replace the high-spending international guests who book longer stays, dine in-house, and spend freely in nearby shops. The ripple effects spread fast. Fewer tourists mean fewer shifts for hotel staff, ushers, and stage crews. Restaurants near theaters see slower nights. Even taxis and rideshares feel the difference when big-spending travelers aren't in town. For Broadway and hotels, the story isn't just fewer visitors. It's a system-wide squeeze that threatens the industries New York is most famous for. Beyond the theaters and hotel towers, it's New York's small businesses that carry the weight of tourism, and they're now hurting the most. In neighborhoods from Chinatown to Harlem, family-run restaurants, cafes, and souvenir shops depend on steady streams of international visitors. A dip in foot traffic can be the difference between breaking even and falling behind on rent. Owners report quieter dining rooms, fewer lines outside bakeries, and shops where shelves that once turned over daily now sit untouched for weeks. The pain doesn't stop there. Taxis and rideshares lose fares when tourists aren't hailing cars to airports or hotels. Street vendors who once sold out of pretzels or souvenirs by midday now pack up with inventory left over. Even laundromats and dry cleaners near hotels are feeling the pinch, with fewer linens and uniforms to service as bookings shrink. For small businesses, there is no safety net, no deep reserves or corporate tax relief. Every lost tour group, every canceled trip, is income they'll never get back. And for New York's neighborhoods, that loss is more than financial. It threatens the character and vibrancy of the city itself. What's happening in New York isn't an isolated story. It's part of a nationwide crisis that's hitting every corner of the United States. Florida, long a favorite for Canadian snowbirds and European beachgoers, is seeing emptier resorts and fewer international bookings. California's theme parks and coastal cities, once magnets for Asian and European tour groups, are reporting softer summers. And along the northern border, smaller towns in Vermont, Maine, and upstate New York that once thrived on weekend traffic from Canada are now struggling through some of their quietest seasons in decades. The numbers are staggering. Analysts warn the U.S. could lose as much as $90 billion in overall tourism-related revenue in 2025, when you account for lost spending, jobs, and tax dollars. Thousands of workers, from hotel staff to restaurant servers to tour guides, are already feeling the pinch. And for smaller towns without the safety net of New York or Orlando's brand power, the downturn threatens entire local economies. For years, America counted on tourism as a reliable engine of growth. But if visitors are pulling back from coast to coast, The problem is bigger than one city. It's a sign that the U.S. itself is losing its appeal, and that decline carries consequences far beyond tourism. The real story isn't just about empty hotel rooms or half-full theaters. It's about what this downturn says about New York, and about America itself. For decades, New York was more than a destination. It was a symbol. Times Square, Broadway, the Empire State Building, they weren't just attractions, they were proof of America's global appeal. To visit New York was to say you'd arrived. But in 2025, even that image is cracking. And that matters, because if New York, the crown jewel of U.S. tourism, can't hold its shine, what hope is there for the rest of the country? From Florida's beaches to California's theme parks, even the biggest destinations are feeling the strain. And when New York's aura of prestige fades, the decline only accelerates nationwide. International travelers aren't just skipping trips, they're sending a message. Destinations like Spain, Japan, and Mexico are gaining momentum, while America risks becoming the place people avoid. The economic cost is huge, but the reputational cost may be even greater. Once a city or a country loses its allure, it can take decades to recover. For New York and for the United States, this isn't just about today's losses. It's about whether the world still sees America as worth the trip. New York's tourism collapse isn't just a headline, it's a warning. If the city that once defined America's appeal is now struggling to fill its theaters and hotels, the ripple effects won't stop here. Because the collapse New York never saw coming may just be the start of something much bigger. Have you chosen to skip a U.S. trip recently? Tell us why in the comments. Your story might be featured in our next video. Stay tuned, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next one.